back to Explain Dice Gaming. I'm Andy. This is... what's your name again?
Tom, I think.
Okay, we should really write that down somewhere.
I'm not Paul, am I?
No, Paul doesn't have physical form.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome back to our Conquest videos. It's been a couple of weeks or more.
It's been a while.
Been a while. When you last joined us, we had, I had just done some intercessors from that set and had our third delivery.
Yeah.
Because we had just received our Reavers, some more Plague Marines, some Pox Walkers, and a Space Marine Lieutenant.
Yeah.
And we were going to show it. I was a little bit lax in my last pledge, I believe, which was I hadn't actually got my first set of 3 Death Guard done, or I had and we didn't show them to you. One of the two. But here's what we've got done now.
Yeah, it's coming along very nicely.
Yeah.
To be fair, your colour scheme for the Death Guard is a lot more demanding than mine.
Well, yeah, it's not. To be honest, it's a little bit more demanding, but now I've gone through the same 3 miniatures twice. I'm actually finding ways of speeding up the process. The first load took a long time because I was really learning about what colours I wanted and how I wanted to do everything. I can now do I think I can do the colour scheme to a tabletop standard and maybe a little bit more rather quickly now. The Poxwalkers, for example, I did in 3 hours.
That's pretty good going.
The Poxwalkers, but they're obviously quite different.
Yeah.
And the Reavers got done as well, and as have my Lieutenant. How have you gone on?
Well, I've done everything I'm intending to do.
Mm-hmm.
The eagle-eyed might notice that I haven't put a lieutenant together.
Yep.
But I don't intend to. I think with your Blood Ravens, it makes a lot of sense with the stolen relic, with the Ultramarine blade, and all that good stuff. And for my guys, I want to go for something a little bit different anyway. I don't want to do such a melee-focused army. I've done the Reavers because you get 3 Reavers, might as well do them.
Yep.
But my Chaos is a very assault-focused force. With the Primaris, I want to focus more on ranged combat.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So we've made some modifications to what's coming in the magazine as usual, because the magazine assumes and provides you with stuff so you can do an Ultramarines versus traditional Death Guard colours.
Yeah.
I'm playing Blood Ravens and Pallid Hand, apparently, and you're doing a...
Yeah, a homebrew Legion.
Yep.
Sorry, not Legion, Chapter.
Yes, not Legion.
Although that said, they are successors of one of the Lost Legions. So they may still call themselves a Legion. I haven't done all of the fluff for them yet. But yes, the Sons of Cain with their very shiny red and black colour scheme.
Yeah. You've gone for a subtle conversion in that you've changed the heads on your Reavers.
Yeah.
So traditionally the Reavers have this sort of, I say traditionally, the models come with a skull helmet, which you'll see on my models. Gives them quite an intimidating shock trooper kind of look. You've changed that for the Corvus helmet, the Beaky.
Yeah.
What made you choose that?
I'm not such a fan, essentially, of the Reaver heads.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ones that are full-on masks are fine. I think the ones that are sort of a half mask look a bit silly.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I didn't want to completely lose the unique look. I want them to stand out from the other Marines on the tabletop.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what better way to do that than to give them the beaks? There will not be any other units in the army with the Corvus heads.
No.
And I just think it works quite well.
They
they've
do.
got an intimidating look in a different way.
Yeah.
So.
The Poxwalkers. Let's go with those next. They are an interesting little unit, fluff-wise. Plague zombies have always been a thing in 40k.
Yeah.
If you dig through the lore a little bit, there's always been mentions of outbreaks in subsectors of plague zombies going from planet to planet, and it's always usually either the aftermath of an Urgle invasion or the precursor to, and it's always been one of his fun little tricks. Poxwalkers are the evolution of that in 8th edition. I think they're like slightly more. The demon virus seems to be slightly more predominant. And in game, they've gone with you can, as you kill enemy models, you can add more Poxwalkers to your force if you've got the models to represent them.
Yeah.
So they're not great, as you would expect any zombie model, but they've got this nice regenerating the horde grows ability, which is quite characterful for them.
Yeah. I think they're a lot of fun just as miniatures as well.
Mm.
They've got a little bit more going on than the standard zombie.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of takes on zombie miniatures over the past few years from different companies, like Mantic do a very good zombie.
Yeah. The old GW zombie kit still holds up just.
It's not horrible.
It's not horrible. There are if someone says I need a horde of 40 zombies for a fantasy game, I would say go buy the Mantic stuff. Not only is it cheaper, but it does look a little bit better, and you get a variety of posters. But if you wanted like a kit for a bits box, go for the GW one. Simply because they're all of the modularity of the models, doing their old traditional legs, torso, 2 arms, and a head, plus whatever weapons that they're wielding, you can do quite an interesting bit of terrain and stuff like that. But yeah, the Poxwalkers themselves are really characterful.
Yeah, they've got their own aesthetic, and as you say, they've got a little touch of the demon about them.
Mm-hmm.
On the tabletop, I actually think they're going to hold up more than you would expect. They're going to suffer against multi-damage weapons in a way that other cultist blobs and similar don't necessarily, because their save is almost purely... Is it almost purely, or is it actually just purely disgustingly resilient?
It's one of the two. Their armor save isn't great, but they do get disgustingly resilient.
I think it's a 7-up save, so if they're in cover, you can roll a die and hope.
Yes, yeah, it's 7-up. I think it's the only 7-up save written down in the game.
Yeah, although we haven't looked at the new Orc Codex, so I wouldn't be
yeah.
surprised if Grots have something like that.
Maybe, but then who wants to field Grots when you can field the entire Orc Air Force or the Orc 24-hour race? Anyway.
But, yeah, these guys, they actually serve a pretty important purpose in a Death Guard army, because you run them up the field and they are ablative wounds for your many, many characters.
Yes.
So I think they're pretty cool. I really dig the look. The sci-fi zombie thing is just very nice. They're not going to kill very much, but that's not really what they're there for, I don't think. They've
got this horrible grimace on every one of their faces, except for the one that's got a gas mask on. But that both plays to the making it look like forced joy, which is what Nurgle's really all about joy and relishing in life, but also it's like the tremendous pain that these beings must be in to go through. For my costume, I decided to mirror the flesh tone I went with on my Plague Marines, which was a bruised, beaten purple, to really contrast with the bone armour. And I went And then I decided to do any cloth as bright contrast to that, like either like orange jumpsuits or bright yellow, which then get rusted down and made it look really dirty. You've gone with more of a traditional flesh colour though, by the looks of it.
Yeah, I wanted something that just looked gross.
I'm not going to lie, it's gross.
I'm pretty sure Steve will flinch looking at them, and that always brings me joy. Plus, I'm going for a more traditional colour scheme overall, and with the traditional Death Guard green, the red, sort of reddish pinkish, really does stand out. So,
yeah.
I think yours works really nicely though.
Thanks. Speaking of conversions, I did a little subtle conversion to the Plague Zombies. It's only on 1 or 2. I just added a very small amount of brass tubing to a couple of the open wounds that were in there, either to represent them stabbing themselves on copper piping or something, or a mutation from that goes along with the pallid hand theme, which are all about. They're like the heavy siege weaponry Victorian chapter of the Death Guard, rusted weapons and metal. So that's all gone with that. The most thing I've converted though this month was the Lieutenant.
A much less subtle conversion, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. Now, this, as I mentioned in the first video, I was really unsure about whether I was actually going to stick with Blood Ravens. I thought I might have to go to G-Dubs, get a couple of the easy to build sets for the Intercessors and the Reavers, and redo them as Ultramarines, because this Ultramarines exclusive Carrot Lieutenant, or Fiend Lieutenant, has come out. In the end, I went, you know what, I've made my decision, I'm going to make it work.
And I've got to say, I think it's really brave of G-Dubs to finally do a female Space Marine.
So, yeah, for my conversion, what I did is I very carefully, where I could, shaved off the Ultramarine symbols from the model. So on the back of the backpack, from the knee pads. The shoulder pads are from a different kit completely. They're the standard Space Marine shoulder pads, because I took one look at the ones that came with the kit. They're very nice, but it was a pain to try and take off the Ultramarine symbols from them.
And you don't really gain anything from doing that anymore.
No, I mean, you get an extra little blob on the underside, and I'd have to cut into the Laurel of Command, which I kind of wanted to keep, but I just really wasn't. It was about, when I was doing that, it was about 10:30 at night, and I was like, you know what, no. Got my Blood Raven symbol on a spare pad, and just stuck it to the shoulders. It looks fine. The other bit of conversion is that I completely ignored using the heads, and I went to statuesque minis and used one of their statuesque heroic 28mm female heads with a green stuffed hair bun, because the ponytails don't fit inside the collars.
Yeah.
The backpack gets in the way, and I had to green stuff around the neck just to make sure that it doesn't sit too low in the collar or look too high. It was. Now, she's still carrying the Gladius, the Power Gladius, that's got all the Ultramarine symbols on it. And people say, oh yeah, but then that's just laziness, why didn't you change the Ultramarine symbols to Blood Ravens? And I went...
And those people don't know anything about the law of Blood Ravens.
Thanks to Dawn of War 2, which is what my force started out was, it's a bit of an RPG, so they had loot in the game, or drops that you could find. And that sometimes would be named weapons, like a pistol from Baal, or a Space Wolf chainsword. And the joke came around that the Blood Ravens have gone around and stolen all of these things. It's entirely possible, and I actually think it's more than likely that when chapters meet, they do trade things for good service, or insults in the case of the Dark Angels and Space Wolves, that sort of thing. So, in the little bit of fluff for the Lieutenant here, she served with the Grey Shields during the Indomitus Crusade, before being transferred to the Blood Ravens, and as either a mark of respect from high up Marine from Gilliman's line specifically, gave her the Gladius as a, either a token of respect or literally she just nicked it off him because screw that guy. But it's something I didn't think would work. Decided to go with violent pink hair at the suggestion of a friend because I got really bored of trying to do it in blonde.
Yeah, blonde hair is difficult.
I did one for a D&D miniature once, and it took hours because nothing I did looked right until I did it the 15th time. But when it's a brightly coloured hair like pink, it doesn't matter because it doesn't look real anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going female Space Marine, you may as well go all the way, right?
Pretty much. But yes, so she will be leading the squads, the Primaris contingent of my Blood Ravens force in kill team games and on the battlefield when they get large enough. Well, certainly until someone higher ranked turns up. So that's last month's stuff done. Suppose we should move on to this month's stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be...
Just slide this over to one side. Yep.
It's going to be a fun month.
Yes. So, issue 7, first one, gives us the tools of that every painter should use, no matter what skill level they are, because they're either cheating or just another trick in your box. 2 washes. The 2 washes that we use the most. Angrax Earthshade and Null Oil.
Yep.
They are literally liquid talent. If you don't understand what I mean, the magazine will pretty much explain washes to you. But you could, if you wanted to get something ready for a battlefield and make it look relatively good in a very short space of time, you can do flat colours, no highlighting, no shading, nothing, and wash them with either Angrax Earthshade if you want it a bit muddier, or like a fancy model would work really well with Angrax Earthshade, or if it's like a machine, you can wash it with Null Oil, leave it overnight or for a couple of hours, and it will look like you've spent a decent amount of time doing all of the highlights and shading and getting in there. It just makes everyone's job so much easier.
Yep. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to making sure the wash doesn't pool anywhere, but you pick it up pretty quick, and it is such a time saver.
Yep. Issue 8 is our second character, and the first one that is not either specifically made for the magazine or an easy to build kit.
Yes.
The Primaris Librarian. Now, you've already put yours together.
Yeah.
How was it, Tom?
I'm going to be honest, that is probably the most difficult model I've had to build in quite a while. I'm not saying it was super difficult, but it was not easy.
No.
What was freaking me out was, as I was putting it together, getting the positioning just right so that there's no daylight showing through the middle of the miniature is actually quite challenging. Once you've got it most of the way there, I'm pretty sure it turns out that you just block off a lot of the rest because he's wearing this huge cape.
Yep.
And the holes are actually there, but you can't really see them.
Yeah.
At least I'm hoping it works out that way. It will become very obvious when I start painting him if it hasn't worked. But
yes, they've engineered a lot of the new plastic character kits so that either mould lines are not obvious or visible because of the way you put certain parts together. I remember it was 6 parts for one of Gilliman's legs, and I was like, this is ridiculous just for one of his legs. And when I finished to put together, it was like there was absolutely nothing I need to clean up on that. And they've applied that principle to pretty much every model they've had since they've started doing plastic characters. And so the instructions when you flick through look a bit confusing, like, why is there so many bits?
Yeah, literally the most difficult thing that I had to do for that miniature was the very first set of steps. Assembling his legs took me probably 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's mostly because he was just trying to work out which bit they actually meant and what the orientation was, and Yeah, it was a little bit confusing. This is definitely the first miniature that you will definitely need glue and clippers for, and a little bit of patience. So just take your time building it.
It's also possible that I'm just bad at building miniatures. I mean, we can't discount that.
It's entirely possible, but at a couple of points when you were building it, I came over, looked at the instructions, and then went back to what I was doing because I was just like, either I'm going to end up getting frustrated or Tom's going to end up punching me in the face. So there was that. Issue 9, we get 6 more Poxwalkers.
Yep.
So the horde grows a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how the magazine develops. The second issue magazine for the when you got the second set of Death Guard, just delved a bit more into the lore and did a little bit more in terms of the game side instead of this is what Poxwalker Death Guard are. It went over the painting tutorial again with a couple more details thrown in just to up your thing. So this month so far we've had, well, in Conquest so far we've had Space Marine character, Space Marine librarian, and the Death Guard have just had Poxwalkers and regular Marines twice.
Yeah.
Advantage Primaris, I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah.
This may change with issue 10. I was going to say it was the Myphitic Blight Hauler, the first vehicle for Conquest.
And the cutest little tank there ever was.
Yes, it is surprisingly adorable. I really wasn't sure about these things when they first came out.
I'm going to be honest, when I had actually finished putting it together, I was regretting a little bit going with green for my Death Guard, because I think that looks like a corrupted Tachikoma, and I think it should be blue. I might do my vehicles in blue.
They could be from. The thing is the way that obviously Death Guard warbands work. They could be from a different
group,
different warbands. So supplying, lords trade favours and equipment to gain power and favour. So
yeah, and I actually feel like this this little group of Death Guard, 12 Poxwalkers, 6 Death Guard, and a tank. I haven't run the numbers on it, but my suspicion is that you could run that as a fun little game against, 3 Intercessors, 3 Reavers, a Lieutenant, and a librarian.
Yeah, you could the numbers points wise probably balances out on the battlefield, and especially in the way that they're introducing the rules slowly to players through Conquest. I think that for the next month or so, until the Space Marines get more heavy ordnance, the Death Guard players are going to have the advantage.
Maybe.
Simply because that's got a multi-melter on it, and whatever the heck this thing is.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice counterbalance. I don't remember how many wounds it's got, and I suspect that the Primaris are going to need to use their smite, going to have to learn about those psychic powers.
Yep, it's going to have to learn about the mortal wounds, and it's almost certainly got at least a toughness of 6.
Yeah.
They only the lightest of the lightest vehicles have 5.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's very tanky, so you want to try and kill it with mortal wounds.
Yes, yeah, your Psyker is going to be instrumental to that, as is your Lieutenant's Power Sword.
Yeah, and the Psyker's Force weapon, because that's D3 wounds, don't forget.
Oh yeah, of course, if they've introduced those rules.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, personally speaking, I think you should start looking at moving away from the basic rules, start playing full engagements, because you've got enough on the tabletop that you can have a proper game. Yeah.
This is you've got certainly for the Death Guard, you've got 5 squads, 3 Marines, 2 squads of Poxwalkers, and your Blight Hauler. That's definitely going to be a very interesting little force to try and counter with the small force of Primaris. You've got obviously we haven't had any terrain yet.
No, that's very true.
But if you you can play on the map, but when you get to forces of this size, that map is not going to be big enough.
Yeah, you don't want that map with that tank zipping around.
So maybe this is time to get out the the old jam jars and the bunkers of utterly butterly that everyone has, just to give your Primaris a little bit of cover as they're trying to deal with the rampaging tank.
Yeah.
Of course, your dice luck might be better than mine, and it might actually go away after the first few turns.
Plus, if you do manage to kill it off, the Death Guard don't have that much special stuff.
You'd be surprised. They've got more heavy ordnance in terms of things. Don't forget they've got the frag launcher.
I suppose, yeah.
Like,
if you're playing the
if you're playing
the special weapons, you've got Power Fist, you've got Plasma Gun, you've got all sorts of stuff.
And you've got the ability of the Pox Walkers to go, oh, you've killed one of your guys. I'm going to have him on my side now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the Reavers are a good counter to the Poxwalkers.
Yes, the Reavers, with each of the Space Marines will have 2 attacks basic.
Yeah.
And that the Reaver squad, if you get into combat first.
Admittedly, the Poxwalkers aren't going to care about the leadership debuff, but we're starting to get into a point where I'm like, actually, I just want to see how that works in practice.
Yeah. But the one final thing turned up this week. It's the one of the subscription gifts, the folder.
Yeah.
Now, this is fairly standard for any Heartworks magazine that you get. They usually will send you a folder or a slipcase or a box to keep your magazines in. What they've done for Conquest is slightly different. Usually when they send one of these things, you're able to just put the magazines in because the magazines are bound by staples and stuff. So, you're supposed to read each individual issue. Conquest isn't bound, really. It's held together with a thin amount of glue.
Yeah.
The pages come apart really easily, as I'm sure you've noticed. And in the folder, you've got these dividers on the front here. So you're for collecting, building, painting, and playing. So you can split your magazines up into those sections. So you can go, I want to brush up on my painting skills. So you can just flip to the painting section and go through the entire thing instead of going, which issue was the how to paint the Primaris Librarian in? Oh, it'll be all of the skills are going to be in there. Job done. You get the collect will be good because you'll keep all the lore together, that sort of thing. And because it splits up and the issues are quite thin, admittedly, one of these will probably last us quite a long time. I'd say at least 25 issues, I reckon.
We'll see, I guess.
But hopefully there'll be an option to order more if there's necessary, or get more will be delivered as they come through.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, really, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, how's your general impression of it so far?
Still great value for money. One of those. Let's put it this way. Magazine is now. We're definitely deep into the $7.99 an issue range, and the Primaris Librarian. If you went, it'll be exactly the same model. If you went to your local gaming store and bought it from them, is a minimum of £22.50.
Yeah.
The Blight Hauler is a easy to build mini, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was at least £12.
I haven't looked, to be fair.
I probably should have done the research before I did that, but it's going to be at least £12.
It's
I
not
reckon.
going to be a cheap mini.
It's not going to be a cheap mini. Well, it's going to be a cheap mini in terms of easy to build, but on its own, £10 to £12, and you're getting all of it for $7.99. You've got 2 pots of washes. and they're the double height washes, so they go for about £4.50 each.
Yep.
You get 2 of them, so that magazine works out to be about the right price. You're still making great savings.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't had time to sit down and read in depth the magazines. I've flicked through and gone, oh, that's kind of cute.
Yep.
But the miniatures, I'm still loving the miniatures.
Yep.
And when I sit down to do my hobby, I want to sit down and build.
Yes, and the pacing was great. I think it's really helped, because if I had just gone to Games Workshop and bought the models here for doing the Force, if for some reason I wanted them in these quantities, probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I have. But because they're coming in small chunks every month, I'm like, okay, I've got a week to do the Death Guard, a week to do the Poxwalkers, a week to do the Primaris Librarian, or the Primaris Captain, whatever it is.
Yep.
It doesn't seem like oh god, I've got all of this unpainted plastic to go.
Yeah.
And when you get issues that are just like paint and stuff, that's like, oh, that's even more time to do something special, like with the Librarian or the Blight Hauler.
Yeah, I mean, I always struggle with painting a lot of the same miniature. When we were getting into Conquest, I bought a box of Hellblasters because I got very excited and wanted to test out colour schemes and that sort of thing. And I was like, well, what Primaris Force doesn't want Hellblasters, right? I have painted, I think, half of them. And the rest are just sitting on a shelf waiting for me to get to them, silently judging me for not picking them up because I'm bored of doing them. But these guys, they're all individual, they're all unique. Even if you're painting the same thing, like I did all 6 of the Poxwalkers pretty much at the same time. There's only 6 of them. You're not looking at doing 10 or 20 or 30, which you do with a lot of other armies. Yeah,
that's the disadvantage of a lot of the mass battle games like 40k or fantasy style or King's Warriors. It's like, great, I've got this great idea for an army. This unit is only like 200 points. Oh god, it's got 40 miniatures in it.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I tend to play smaller, more elite stuff, but I painted 30 horses for my Basilean army for Kings of War. I was so sick of doing horses by the end of that.
Yes.
And that is a phrase that you don't want to hear often.
No.
So sick of doing horses. And I think we can cut there.
Yeah. And on that thing. Yeah. So thank you for joining us. This is going to be a game this week because after rewatching the one that we did for you last time,
we didn't feel it added much, did we?
No. You know what 40k is about. If you want to see a battle, go ahead. Watch one of our other videos. I highly recommend the ones that we did a couple of Christmases ago, or was it last year? Yeah, it was last year, with the 7th edition Start Collecting series.
Yeah, I mean, the rules have changed a lot since 7th edition, but those are still fun videos.
Yes, still fun videos, and I think the opinions that we did, that we came up with and thoughts are still reflective.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that this is a much better introduction to the hobby than any of those starter forces.
Oh, yeah, but then again, those starter forces are still pretty good. I'm still iffy on the Eldar one. Even the new Eldar one, I'm still iffy on. But if you're going into a shop and you want to say, I want to start 40k, I'm not interested in Space Marines or Death Guard or whatever the current starter box is, because they've done Space Marines versus Gene Stealers and Necrons versus Mechanicum. But I want to try the Tau, or I want to try the Dark Eldar, or whatever, or the Orcs. Grabbing one of those boxes, still great value for money, and the rule book isn't very much.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're playing Tau, bad luck, and if you're playing Dark Eldar, get out. That's the current opinion, isn't it?
I've no idea. All I can say is if you're playing orcs, learn to love green. Love green.
And red ones go faster.
Red ones do go faster. Blue ones roll better.
Does that ever work for you?
I don't know. I've never played a blue army. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.